Ayin Amid Beis. Ayin Amid Beis, where Rabbi Yehuda was summoned by Rav Nachman to a din Torah. He should come. So Rav Nachman's wife says to him, you know, so far from the interaction between you and Rabbi Yehuda, if you don't somehow get this over with quick, you're going to look like an Amoritz. So he shows up. When Moshe was in 3rd grade, oh, you showed up today, okay. Maybe tomorrow you won't show up. That's mentioned. That's mentioned. The two Rav Nachman. It's a question of which Rav Nachman is. Well, compared to Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda was greater. Rav Yehuda was greater. Rav Nachman was Chastan de Beinesiah. He was the son-in-law of the Nasi. He's Namor? Of course he's Namor. So he said to him, he has to somehow get this over with real quick in the best way. So he says to Rav Nachman, he said, what did you... Nachman, Rav Yehuda asked, console Rav Huna, should he go? He says, you should go. He goes, he says, by the way, what are you doing here? Omalei, Taska Hazmenusa Shadamar Abasroi. He says, you sent me a subpoena. That's what I'm doing here. Omalei Hashna Shu Taska Hazmenusa Shabshtadin Lamar. He says, I don't even understand your terminology. It's so sophisticated, so beyond me. Where do I have the audacity to send you a hazmana, a subpoena to come before my court? Meaning you're so much greater than I am. How do I send you the hazmana? Apik diska dasmnusa mi bichadjo. So he took out the document, the subpoena from his pocket. He shows him. He says, what are you talking about? You didn't send me a hazmana, a subpoena. Here's the subpoena. Omalei, hogavro, hodisco. Your name's on it, and this is the subpoena. What are you asking me? How did you arrive here? He says, once you're here ready, so we'll talk about it. Why? So people shouldn't say, you know, the rabbi was summoned to a Torah, it was a claim, and somehow they stroke one another. No, he's trying to extricate himself. He can't deny it. It's fact. Meaning, he was hoping that Rav Nachman, when he says that, he says, Rav Yehuda would say, you know something, goodbye. Rav Yehuda wasn't going to let it go over here. So he asked him, he says, why did you put this other person in the chayrim? This person referred to, when the shamus was purchasing meat on his behalf, so the seller of the meat says, the vendor says, you know, I have to first attend to the needs of this person, because he's the attendant of Rav Yehuda ben Yecheskel. So he spoke in a disrespect. He says, Shabisko. So he says, why did you put him in Chayrim? So it's interesting. The Maharsha asks a question. He says, Tzir Shlicha D'Rabbanan. Because the man who he embarrassed him too. He was a Shlich D'Rabbanan. He was an agent of the Chachamim. So because he embarrassed him, he deserves to be excommunicated. So the Maharsha asks, but when he put him in Chayrim because he said to him, because he referred to him as Shvisko rather than Yecheskel. So the Maharsha says the reason why he did say that, in terms of to tell this to Rav Nachman, was out of humility. He wasn't going to say I put him in Chayrim because he spoke in a disrespectful way about me, but rather he spoke to my agent, to the Shliach Bezdin, in a disrespectful way. V'nagdi mar. He says, V'nagdi mar, did you give him lashes? You know, the halach is if you go and you abuse a Shliach Bezdin, you give him malchus. The Rav Mangid al Mandim Tzad Shluch Rabban, Rav would give lashes to the one who would cause pain. Pain doesn't mean physical pain, meaning to abuse him, to insult. A Shluch Rabbanon, he says, the other from he says, I even did worse than that. I did something even more than that. Meaning, I put him in Chayrim. So why? So why did he do more? So there's a question, because really, a Talmud Chacham, it's his prerogative to give Malchus or Didui, or here it was a combination of both. Because here he did two things. He spoke disrespectfully to the Shlucha D'Rabbanan, and also, he spoke negatively about him. He referred to him as Shviskel. So it was a combination of both. So he says, but my time Achri is Mar Alei, the Abdu. it's bad enough that you've been a chayrim. Why did you announce to the public that he's a slave? Right? You announced that he's an illegitimate Jew, because afterwards Reb Yehuda heard that this man, he doesn't say anything good about anybody. Whoever he meets, he accuses them of being slaves, being illegitimate, not even Jewish. Because he's accustomed to call people avodim. That means you're not a Jew. V'tani, and we had learned, kol aposel posel, one who disqualified the others, he himself, that's a reflection on himself, that he's illegitimate. Ve'enu medaber b'shivcha l'olam, he doesn't speak about the praiseworthiness of people. Oh, everything is negative at the most extreme level. V'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel says, whenever a person speaks about the legitimacy of others, the mubal posel, the way he categorizes others, that's exactly his own category. So if he's calling others slaves, he himself is a slave. That's what Rav Yehuda says to Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman says to Rav Yehuda, Eimedom Shmuel u'mecha shlei lachrozi alei miomar. Meaning, if a person, kol aposel mubal posel means, so you have to suspect he may be illegitimate. But it's not definite. But if you're announcing to the public he is, so you've already passed judgment on him, that he definitely is a slave. Well, no, we're going to see. That's what Rav Nachman is saying. The Gemara is going to tell the story in a moment. She said, Shmuel may have said it, but that's only lochush, to take it in consideration. But to pass judgment, where do you have a right to pass judgment? It's interesting. What's lochush? The halacha is, if you hear something negative about something, within the context of Lashon Hara, you're not permitted to believe it as fact. Fact means you're permitted to act on it. What's an example? The Chofetz Chaim speaks about a case, and this, I remember, this wasn't uncommon years ago. A person comes to collect, as if he's needy. Word goes out in the community, these people are wealthy people, and they're charlatans. They're not real. But until you hear this, they had a presumed status. They were poor, and people would help them. So you have to continue supporting them. So Chofetz Chaim says, so what did you hear? You heard something, these people are doing something dishonest. So it's really, if you find out they're collecting when they don't need the money, of course you don't give them. Right? But you don't know. Lochush. You're permitted to believe it to the degree, to take it into consideration, to verify. But until you verify fact, you have to continue supporting them. You have to continue, whatever you gave them before, you have to continue giving them. That's lochush. Because there's a chazokah. You have a chazokah. You have presumed status. Presumed status, these people are honest people. That's presumption. You heard something. No, you didn't squash it. People, rumor doesn't mean anything. Rumor means you have a right to investigate. Let's say a person, there's not even a reason to suspect. The person says, he may be a thief. There's not even the basis to investigate. So there's a basis, but until you verify it, there's chazokah. You have to go after presumed status. Okay? Same thing. Let's talk about the Gemara, not the organizations. Okay? So now, this man goes, speaks, he classifies, categorizes people as slaves. There's a reason to suspect he may be a slave, but until now he hasn't been a slave. He has a chazokah. Lochush mi boy. That's what Rav Nachman said to Rav Yehuda. That's only mean we have a right to now investigate, but not to confirm, to pass judgment. He definitely is a slave. Listen. Asahu bar dine nerdoi. Right? Rav Yehuda was from Bedisa. This person who came to buy the meat was from Nerdoi. In the meantime, he shows up in Bezdin, and he's the one who has the claim against. He's the one who initiated the subpoena against Rav Yehuda. It shows, Omalei hahu bar dine lo Rav Yehuda. So his co-defendant says to Rav Yehuda, "L'didi koris li avdo." He says, "Where do you have the audacity to call me a slave, an eved? Dasina beis chashmoy malka. Do you know who I am? I'm a great miyuch. From Beis Chashmonoim, which were kings. Omalei hochem Shmuel." So when he heard that, which he didn't know it originally, he said, Shmuel said something else. Kol di Omra mi di Beis Chashmonoi kasina avdu. Anybody says he's a descendant of the house of Chashmonoim, he's definitely a slave. So Rashi cites the Gemara Bava Basra. Gemara Bava Basra says Hurdis was a slave in the house of the Chashmonoim. He was a Canaanite slave. he killed his masters, and he left over one young girl. She was the only surviving member of the family, and he wanted to marry her. Okay, and he was a monster hoarder. Besides being illegitimate, he was a slave, which is not permitted. He wanted to marry, and he wanted to establish himself as royalty. And not only that, because why? Because slaves permit the truma. An Eved Kanani eats the truma because he's the chattel of his master. So he was eating truma. So he established himself, him and his family. We're all Kohanim. And to confirm it, he's married to the daughter of the house of Chashmonoim. What did she do? She went to the rooftop and she announced publicly, anybody who says he's from the house of Chashmonoi is definitely a slave, and she jumped to her death. Because she was the last surviving member of that family. So that's Shmuel. Anybody who says that he's from Beis Chashmonoi, Avdahu, he's definitely a slave, a Canaanite slave. Omar Lei. So Rav Nachman is not impressed with this yet. We'll see. Omar Lei. Hodi Omar Rabab. Omar Rav. Listen to this. But he says to Rav Yudah, you don't accept Rav Abbas. It said in Rav Huna, name of Rav, called Talmud Chochem Shemor Halocha. A Talmud Chochem who offers a ruling, ubo, and then something subsequently happens. Im kodim masa omro shomim lo, vim lavein shomim lo. Hear this? Let's say I present halacha, and now something happens which has relevance to the person himself personally. So then you're permitted to apply what he taught, although it has relevance to his own personal situation. But let's say something happens, and then you cite a source which will have a negative effect on another person. You don't that ruling. Because you could say maybe the man has a conflict of interest, and he's somehow not saying it because of his conflict, like over here. This Eved had insulted his what? This person insulted his slave, his attendant, his shliach. He had spoken negatively about him. All of a sudden now you're quoting something which supports your decision. I can't accept it as being credible. Maybe what you're citing really is not accurate, and you're only citing it in the inaccurate context because of your conflict of interest. So therefore it's not credible. So over here, what was the order of events? First you were insulted. You've spoken about disrespectfully. Your attendant, your shliach, was also insulted. So now all of a sudden now you're citing Shmuel. Can't accept it. What you're saying that Shmuel had said, anybody comes Beis Chashmonoi, he's definitely Eved, I can't accept it as being credible. Because your conflict, you're not quoting it correctly. Because you're a beneficiary of this. You're a Nogeya. Omar Lei. So, could you imagine? You're saying this, you're talking to Rav Yudah, he's the God Lador. But it does make a difference, because you never know how conflicts of interest plays on a person's mind. Omar Lei, Ho'ika Rav Masna, the Koi Kavosi. You hear this? He said, what are you talking about? Rav Masna was there with me. I'm not the only one. Rav Masna, we'll see. Rav Masna was a Talmud of Shmuel. He heard him say the psak, and it has no relevance to Rav Masna. But Rav Masna is not here. He says Rav Masna was there, so we have to believe him whether Rav Masna was there. You hear this? Rav Masna chazle nerdo tleisa shoni. Rav Masna hadn't visited Nerdo in 13 years. Hahu Yomos, that day when Rav Yudah needed him, who shows up? Who walks through the door of Masna? Omar Lei, the Chirmai Mai Omar de Shmuel. He says, so now Rav Yudah says to his colleague, who he claims was there, he says, do you remember what Shmuel said many years ago? Ki koi chada kara aguda v'chad kara b'mabro. He says, do you remember Shmuel when he said it over? He had 1 foot on the boat and 1 foot on the dock. That was, as he was walking out of the boat, he said it over. You hear the accuracy of memory over here. It's like very often the Gemara says, when Rav Glio went to buy a calf for his son's wedding in the Shukah, this is when they had this halachic discussion. So he says to Ramas, don't you remember when Shmuel, he had 1 foot on the boat and 1 foot on the dock as he was going out? Don't you remember he said this? Amalei, Hochim Shmuel. He says, Kol de Omar Beis Chashmonoi Malko. Anybody says he descends from the house of Chashmonoi who were kings, Kasina Avdehu. There was only one survivor of the family, this young girl, the so-called the Igro, Virabio Kolo. She went to the roof and she made an announcement. She raised the voice of Omra, and she said before she jumped to her death, called the Omei Beis Chashmoyano, anybody who claims that he's from the house of Chashmoy, Abduhu, Noflim Igro, make so. She jumped from the roof, she jumped to her death. Okay? Achruz Alei de Abduhu. So now, Rav Nachman understands. Rav Nasna shows up, it's been confirmed that he claims he's from Beis Chashmoy. He's admitting himself. So they announced that this person is definitely an Eved. If you tell me you just came from the Knesset in Yerushalayim, okay, then I understand this kind of question. You're coming from La La Land, from California. This is the question to ask. Maybe a political fight. It's not too political. The guy's a nobody. He's a... Good question. Good question. So what would you answer? I wanted to hear if the answer is within a political context or with understanding truth. So I'll tell the pshat's like this. This man came, evidently if he knew who Rabbi Yehuda was the head of his community. He was the Rosh Hashiva there. He was the Gadol Hador. He says, who are you buying meat for? Where do you have a right to buy meat for Rabbi Yehuda ben Shviskel? We're talking about. He's the chief rabbi in the community. That's what we speak about him. The answer is he came from another community. He didn't know who he was. He's a rabbi. I've heard about a lot of rabbis. But if he was in Kudu, would he have spoken that way? Even if he's nobody, he wouldn't have spoken that way. The whole event only came about because he was not from the community. That's why he spoke pejoratively about Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? No politics. No, it's not political here. Not that he didn't tell him. He's reminded. Don't you remember what?
Right, but he didn't tell him what he said.
No, he didn't say.
Right, the Ramasta remembers.
Right. So that was a confirmation. Right?
Was it a confirmation of what Shmuel had said?
What Shmuel had said.
Why couldn't we have believed? So we didn't believe it when we said.
No, when Rav Yehuda had said it, because this is strengthening his position.
I understand, but why didn't we believe it there? And now
Because he may have been misinterpreting it or misquoting because of his own conflict of interest. Mazda has no conflict of interest.
The story was correct.
So it was accurate. The psak was an accurate psak.
The question of the story.
Of the psak. Because maybe he's only recalling not accurate because of his own conflict of interest. He's a guy and he's showed up. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. And the dingo. Okay. Okay. Shmuel's not alive anymore. Shmuel's... Okay.
The Gavra didn't show up unintentionally. The Gemara brings us the case for future.
Rav Masna?
The Gavra. The whole name for the Gavra.
The one who was the slave?
Yes. He didn't show up unintentionally.
No, he came to buy meat. He came to buy meat. Kasha v'mais.
This is the only one book that's doing it.
The Rosh Hashanah, יש גלות עשיתם פומפדיטה, יקפנו פומפדיטה בית ביטי מהרתנה.
You know what that's called? The kasha v'mais. Okay? Yeah. You know what kasha v'mais means? It's called buckwheat. Okay. Let's go further, not get bogged down with the minutia. Listen to this. So once they announced this person was an Evan, and now, so what happens to the whole family? His family. Mm-hmm. So the whole family avodim. They're all illegitimate Jews. So all the marriages, these people believed they were Jews. Now, on that day, many ksubas were torn up. Because there's no marriage. A husband only, the Rishonim ask a question over here. I mean, they should have forced them to divorce their wife. Why anybody who comes from the house of Chashmono is an Eved? It's if an Eved marries a Jew. Correct? So if that's the case, explains because away from the family. So really, base who themselves. So not only were the men avodim, even the wives were shvachos. They had the status of Eved. So if that's the case, the line continues. It's a line of what? Of Eved. That's the reason. An Eved can't marry. He marries a woman. There's no financial. So as a result of this announcement related to this man, they're all avodim. Financial obligation because it's not a marriage. They were not released. They never received a get shichro. This. They were never emancipated. He assumed, he says, I'm the king now. So, but there's a question they asked. They asked an interesting question. They asked a question. Shmuel Ishtos the Merces and Gittin that Amafke Avdo Yosel Cherus. Person doesn't give it a writ of emancipation to a slave, and you just disown him. He's Yosel Cherus without a get shichro. Then it says, and if you beyayish, let's say your Eved rebels and you despair that you'll ever be able to retake him. Also Yosel Cherus. So Hurdis, he killed the Beis Chashmonaim. He was in power. Who's not going to despair? So if that's the case, why is he Eved? It's Shmuel's position is Mafka Abdus Yosel Cherus. He's Jewish. So so how do we understand the story? So how could Shmuel say anybody who says he's from Beis Chashmonaim he's an Eved because he's from the family Hurdis, but they were Miyayish? It's no less than Hefker. What do you mean? There's no way you could retake these people. They're in power. They're the governing power over here. Right? So because the original owner despairs, it's over. So the Rishonim answer that what happens if you had a relative in the Medina Sayyam? I mean, the one who's in the proximity of the man, you say a word, you could be killed. But a person says, he'll bide his time. It may be a time that he'll be able to retake it, to reclaim his property. What about if you have ketanim? What about a person at the time he was a minor, and then he became an adult? What is it? It's called Yush Midas. Yush Midas lo Yush. So since when he was a minor, he's unaware. Now he becomes adult. He never was aware that he had a right to the slave. So that's if he would have known. But we rule if he would have known, that's not Yush. Yush Midas lo Yush. Therefore, they retain the status of slaves because of those owners within the family. Nobody survived. No. There may have been other people from the Chashmonaim family who heard this wasn't aware, and he didn't kill them. He only killed those people who he was aware. Whatever it was, there were other people in the family. No, they have Rav Masna. Rav Masna and Rav Yehuda are colleagues. Rav Nachman is younger. He's not on the same level. You're this. So as Rav Yehuda was leaving the community, they came out to stone him. They came with stones. They were going to stone him. Why? Because they realized he's exposing them. He's destroying the community. Amar lahu. So he said to them, listen to what he said. Ishatiku shatiku. If you remain silent, you remain silent. Meaning, I'm not going to say anything else. Ilo, but if not, if you're going to make an issue here, maglina alaychu. I will reveal all the illegitimacy that exists in this community here, and we're going to create real problems. Why? Tati zaryaisa ikabader do. There were two families. Here, there were two families in their do. Chado dimikri beyona. One family was called the House of Yonah. Now, Yonah is a kosher species. Yonah, a dove. The simonech, and what is an indicator of which one is pure and which was illegitimate? Tomei tor. The house of Yonah was a kosher family, legitimate. The house that was called the House of Raven, they're illegitimate because the bird is not a kosher bird. He says, but he didn't reveal who was from which family. But Rav Yehuda knew. So he says, if you're going to make an issue with this, right now I'm not going to say anything. But if you're going to continue pursuing me, I'm going to reveal who's what. Shadu lahu rigma miyadai. So they took the stones. Listen, how many stones they were going to throw at him. I mean, he would have been buried under stones here. So they threw the stones away. They threw it into the river, and it actually blocked the flow of water. That's how many stones. So you can imagine if they would have thrown these stones at him, what would have happened to him? They would have killed him. We can see the Gemara on the next page, because the question is, if actually you know who's illegitimate, you have a chiyuv as a bezdin, you have a chiyuv to reveal it. We'll see later. No. Rula alocha, that if something is a serious problem, and even when Mashiach will come, he will not reveal that. What? Because sometimes if families assimilate, illegitimate family assimilate among Jews, it creates such a problem, you just let it go. You let it go, and even when Mashiach will come, he will not reveal who those families are, and they'll actually, because the Gemara says, like, is the famous expression, which is used in a very negative context, kesef matar mamzer, that expression. Yeah. Money can even purify illegitimate mamzer. But the question, what it means, the Gemara is going to say that because he had wealthy families who were illegitimate, kosher Jews, they married because of their money into kosher families. So because of that, there was a lot of assimilation between illegitimate Jews and legitimate. Mashiach comes, if he's going to reveal that, it's going to be problems. Mashiach, because of that original wealth, and there was this integrating of legitimate, illegitimate, it's matar mamzer. At the end of time, Mashiach will not reveal it. That's the meaning, kesef matar mamzer. Because of the original money, generations earlier, there was this intermarriage. Therefore, at the end of time, Mashiach will be matar them. He will not reveal who they are. That's the meaning of. Meaning that he will leave them in a pure state. Although Mashiach knows the truth, but he will leave them in a pure state. He will not reveal their true pedigree. We'll wait for the next stuff. I know. No, there's no cure, but you have a principle of rov, you have a principle of chazaka, right? You rely on that. Not a suffix, not even a suffix, not a suffix. No, he knows, but Hashem doesn't want him to reveal it. So then you go with the presumed status. The majority of Jews are kosher Jews. It's known that the purest pedigree of Jew, purest, are the Yemenites. Because every community throughout the world, because there were pogroms and there were many things that happened, there were rapes, there were conversions, non-Jews converted to be Jews. Among Yemenites, it's the purest pedigree. They were not. There were no conversions in that community. So even the features of the Yemenite Jews, that was the original features of Jews at Sinai. Exactly the way they look, that was originally. Because there's no intermingling. In their DNA, that DNA is the purest. They did a DNA study maybe 20 years ago. And the DNA study showed they took the various republics in Russia. Each DNA is in one. Even though they live not that far from one another. The Afghanis and the whatever it is, the Kazakhstan, everyone has a different DNA. The American black and the African and the Ethiopian, identical DNA. Identical. Understand? The Falasha, identical. Same. It's not. Ramosha ruled. They were definitely goyim, Jews, and therefore they have to convert. That's what Moshe Paskin, without a question. You know, no, Moshe Paskin come from what when they did the deal. Regular. Ashkenazic Sephardic DNA. The DNA. That was DNA tested because among them they never had type of intermingling of legitimacy or gerim. What? You see, it's clear. I mean, there's certain diseases or that Jews are subject to and non-Jews are not. So therefore, speak to any oncologist. They say Jews, because there's so much inbreeding, they call that inbreeding, therefore it becomes, it's unique to it's the same gene pool. They would allow other, see, this Alan's not sitting here, so I got to teach you guys something. Right? I'm just saying that's what this is. But if you allow, to somehow to lighten the intensity, to introduce other genes, it will be a different story. It will be less common, various types of cancers or whatever else it may be, because of certain genes. I don't know. Look, they don't need pizza and falafel. Maybe falafel, there's no pizza. Okay, because they're sequestered away. Okay. Machres Rav Yehuda Pumbediso. Rav Yehuda announced in Pumbediso, Ada V'yonason Abdi. Yehuda bar Popo Mamzera. You this? Made an announcement. Ada and Yonason, they're slaves, and Yehuda the Mamzera. Forget about it. I don't want to get involved. Okay, we'll go with the political. No, Reb Yehuda's from Pumbediso. That's his community. I don't know. It says before in their door. Just because they were joining communities, he knew what was going on there. Rav Shach. I once went to Rav Shach. I went to him a number of times. And I told him that I just paid a shiva visit in Tel Aviv. Somebody who owned a certain hotel, he was sitting shiva in his hotel. His family came from Caracas, Venezuela. He'll ask me what's going on in the political situation in Venezuela. So Rav Shach immediately, there was nothing he did not know what was going on. He told me the man was immersed 24 hours in the Torah. But anything that was going on in any community in Eretz Yisrael, he had the pulse. And he said to me immediately about this family, there was a certain something had to do with a position regarding something, immediately knew that the family had said something which was considered a negative in terms of their position on something. There's nothing he didn't know. So you're asking Rabbi Yehuda, he's from Pumbediso, what is he doing there, though? How did he know, how did he categorize these families as illegitimate? Kasha b'maisa. Ramosha, you're New York, you're not California. You stay out of our backyard. You understand? Boti ben Tuvia. This person's name was Boti, the son of Tuvia, who came from Ramos Rucho. He did not take a get shichru. He was not emancipated. Machriz Rova ben Bechuza, Bali Danoi Taloi Maloi Zagoi Kulam Psul. Rava in Mechuza, that who's in that community, he announced all these various people who had these names, they're all illegitimate. He didn't. He went around like a free person. Could be he was a strong-armed person. He never took it. Lo Shokil, he never took a get shichro. I don't know. He is the Rosh Bezdin. He gave out the proclamation. Omer Rav Yehuda, Govoi Givoni. The family that's called Govoi, they're from Givonim, the Givonites, illegitimate Jews. During the Nisa, Daroi Nesinoi, they come from Nesinim, also illegitimate Jews. Omer Rav Yosef, Haibar Kubi, the Pumbediso, back to Pumbediso. Hello, Pumbediso. The family by Beikubi come from the community called Beikubi and Pumbediso, Kulam Davdi. That whole community, all avodim, all slaves. Amri v'dum Shmuel, Arba Meis Avodim, 400 slaves. Canaan say, V'amri lo Arbos Alofim Avodim. Some say there were 4,000 Canaanic slaves. Hoylo lepashcher ben Amar. This was the time of Yirmiyah. This person, Pashcher ben Amar, was a Jew. He had 4,000 Canaanic slaves. V'kulam nitum b'kuna. And they all married They assimilated into families of Kohanim. Why? Because since they ate Truma, so they passed themselves off as Kohanim. A Kohen, if you come across a Kohen who's insolent, arrogant, brazen, Einu Elamihem. They're really slaves. They're not really authentic Kohanim. There's a certain walled, enclosed city with a wall. That's where they're located, these people. Uplig Reb Lozer, but he argues Reb Lozer. Meaning what he says, their brazenness is an indication of their illegitimacy. He argues Reb Lozer. Reb Lozer, Imroisa Kohen Bazis Meitzach. If you come upon a Kohen who's really arrogant, Al Tarachrav, don't question his pedigree. Shenemar. And he quotes a pasuk that Kohanim have this midah, have this trait. Va'amcha kimrive Kohen. Your people are, the Kohanim are quarrelers. They quarrel. No, you don't have to. No, you don't have the story right. Read the story in the Art Scroll. No, the story's not right. No, the Dayan Rav Nachman was the son-in-law, not the person who was excommunicated. Rav Nachman was the son-in-law. So you got to have the story right. Okay. Omer Robin Baravado Omer Rav Kohen no seisha shehinu genes lo. Person who marries a woman who's not appropriate, meaning she's illegitimate. Shakadosh Mashish Chinoso made al kol hashvotim mein morolov. Will allow his presence to dwell. It will be on the shvotim. They made all of Shenemar. Shiftei ko edus li Yisrael. We will continue.